This particular catchment occupies the northern part of what we call the Egmont or Tarnaki ring plain, and abuts against an older extinct volcano called the Puakai volcano. And Puakai was active up until about a 250,000 years ago, or 250,000 years, and then the Egmont centre began somewhere in the vicinity of 150, maybe 170,000 years ago. Two large avalanches of this early Egmont volcano collapsed to the northeast, down through the Inglewood region. The older one is only preserved in the coastline at Motunui, but the younger one forms all the mounds around Inglewood and travelled down some of the major valleys out onto the coastal marine benches. And this unit is in the order of 100,000 years old. These clearly were extremely large landslides from a former Egmont cone, of which there have been many prior to the construction of the current one. And by the time that these avalanches had fallen away to the northeast, we would have had an ancestral Waiwhakaiho river then draining the northeast flank. Subsequently, the major events in the Waiwhakaiho catchment have been watery flows of volcanic sediment that we call lahars. And these can be both coarse bouldery but also sandy, muddy events involving flowing water. And they have occurred successively down the Waiwhakaiho catchment to the sea, but mainly in a course where upstream of the Lake Mangamahoe inlet, the catchment went in a northeastwards direction towards Bell Block and out to sea. The lahars in this ancient catchment demonstrate that over time they accumulated in the valley floor. The valley floor gradually rose or aggraded and left behind these deposits which extend back to at least 40,000 years ago. And then as recently as perhaps 10,000 years ago, no more than 15, a small river that was incised in the lower part of the Waiwhakaiho catchment, only extending a few kilometres inland, gradually made its way back to capture the waters of the upper Waiwhakaiho in the vicinity of Lake Mangamahoe, where there's a big right-angled turn in the river. And so from that point on, the Waiwhakaiho was captured by the lower segment and now takes all that water off the northeast flank directly through the city of New Plymouth now. In the upper reaches of the Egmont National Park boundary, we then see the youngest events in the catchment, which do involve a very thin ash from a hot eruption that would have charred some of the trees about 450 years ago. And this then led to much of the forest being devastated on both the northwest and the northeast flanks of the mountain, and heavy rains subsequently removed large volumes of gravels and sand down onto the ring plain, forming a wedge that we call the Hangatahua gravels and sands. And these are quite extensive in the Waiwhakaiho, between the Egmont National Park boundary and about down to about the state highway. And from there on down, most of those deposits have been subsequently eroded by more recent river activity. So that's roughly the volcanic history of the catchment.